back. Threaded rod tool, Motion Pro, I believe it is. You thread that on the top of the cartridge and you just apply it, and all there is what they call a top out spring. And you just basically spin this little bastard around until you can get the weight off the springs. Sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's not, but when you get it just right, you can get it off. Now I will cheat, and I will use the actual spring tool for the OEM, or I will cheat even more and use an impact. Impact it is. So it's half-inch drive. This is the cheater way, but we just can't put it on this way. And that's all there is to it. So now there's the nut. This is the guide spacer that the cap sits on. So that, you want to make sure there's no damage to it. It has to be looking pretty. Now we'll take out the spring. Now I am a 5-weight favorite for most stuff. The road bike I don't get particular on because it's just a road bike, and here where I live, roads are flat and freaking boring, so we don't do much with them. So I set that aside, keep her all nice and clean. Now, find a nice pail that you can dump oil in. So inside that little tube where I took this rod out of, underneath this rod, there is a tiny, tiny needle with a tiny, tiny spring. So there's a spacer on the outside where the main spring is, and on the inside of this little rod, there it is right there. A tiny, tiny little needle. Don't lose it, and don't lose the spring. And there is that tiny little spring, something you don't want to lose. And this is the spacer that controls your 10-weight spring, 10.5. I'm an 11.0 boy because I'm about 230 pounds. I'm a little chunky. So that goes in there too. And that is it for the parts. Now I'm just going to move the camera down if I can and see if this will work. So all I do is we leave it upside down, and I just move that cartridge plunger back and forth. So at this point, these are Öhlins, so they will literally just slide apart. And that is it. So now there's your fork tube. And here is your main unit. And there is always oil, so have lots of rags. In my case, I need lots and lots of rags. I'm gonna set that fork tube aside. I actually will hang the internals for a smidgen while I kind of just clean out the exterior fork tube and make sure everything's okay. We'll move the camera back up here slowly so we don't mess it up too bad. There. So yeah, and here's the SFK's forks. Grab myself a clean rag. Now the road bike here doesn't get the same love as the race bike, so she is a dirty girl. These forks haven't been touched in a while. I only do them once a year because I only got 2,500 kilometers on the bike this year. But yeah, these SKF seals, sorry, it's been a long day, are really good quality, and the stiction is the most important part. So when you slide them on the shaft, there is almost no stiction, as I had in my old video. So we'll set this aside because basically we're done with it for right now. I'll just leave them up against here. So once we get this, we'll spin this back up, put her back in the vise. Make sure there's your aluminum spacers in your vise. You do not want to score or mark this beautiful aluminum. It's expensive to replace. Drink a scotch, grab a can of Brake Clean, carry a couple of cans of brake clean because we are going to waste one whole can in here. And while we spray it in, you're just going to duplicate the stroke. It sounds disgusting, but it works. So this is just getting rid of any black sooty residue, any foreign type little pasty materials that's inside that cartridge. If you really want to be thorough, that's another whole day, but we can take the cartridges and take them apart. I have one partially out of the cylinder to give you an idea what it looks like. And then we just dump her. And you always pull your cartridge so that the top out spring is used. And that way it helps force out any stray fluids that are in there, because you don't want any brake clean left inside this cartridge at all. When in doubt, let it dry a little bit, and while it drips, this is the most time-consuming part. It's just giving the patience for the brake clean. So this is your Nix cartridge. There is the rod that goes inside. Here is the old cap. Now this came out of my RSV, so that's why I have a spare kit. The FKR kits are different. And your oil flow goes through all those little washers inside there. And to take this apart, you just pop these pins, pop this here, and this rod will slide right out completely. Or you can take off the nut at the bottom and have everything fall off. That's how you get your washers out. But that's all your Nix kit is. That's what you pay, our case, about $1,500 Canadian or 1,000 euro. And yeah, that is it for this part. I will come back once this drains a little bit, and then we will reassemble it and go from there.